Okay, I will start with a very short introduction of this discussion, and then I will be silent for most of the time, so just ignore me. So meet the people who actually shape the internet. In this audience, we have a lot of people who develops ad blocking tools and all kinds of stuff, and for a casual user, it might occur that uBlock Origin, AdGuard, Adblock Plus, they somehow magically identify and block ads, and they are developed by some brilliant developers and all, etc., etc. That's not the case. We just provide tools for the real heroes. And the real heroes, the ones who maintain filter lists, they are on stage. They were all already briefly introduced. And I think it would be interesting to learn more about them. And, well, how come? Where do you come from? The first part of this discussion is discussing the personal journey. There is no university where filter list maintainers are being taught. Well, so please tell the audience, first of all, how and why? Why do you do what you do? What motivates you? And finally, well, what were the challenges and so on? If you would like to say something, please raise the hand, and here we go.
Wait, aren't we supposed to have a feed of like ourselves on this slider thing?
You can talk whatever you want.
Yeah, I kind of want my face showed. I got something to prove to my parents at home.
Of course.
Okay, whatever guys on the back room. I'll begin speaking in the meantime. I started, I think it was June 2016. That was the very earliest start of me doing ad blocking, because I'd become increasingly pissed off at YouTube recommendations and comment sections, including ones that talk trash about cartoons I liked. So I started looking for a way to synchronize raw.txt files online. Lots of services at the time didn't, GitHub did. And things skyrocketed from there, and 3 months later I had a Nordic list spun off. After 5 months I had somehow got included in uBlock Origin, and then AdGuard, and the rest is history.
I would just quickly add that Imre is probably the most productive filter list author in the world. He maintains like dozens of different filter lists.
At the last count I had 140.
Okay, it's not it's more than 100. So, well. Anyone else?
Oh, okay. So, I started it back when the internet was quite slow, where 256K was our broadband speed for a while, and it developed. We had a server which only had a limited amount of bandwidth, so to share amongst four other guys. So, I had to. At first, I had to basically create a list to block all the ads to stop people from downloading the ads, to make things faster, to browse faster, which then I started to learn how to create filters essentially from that. This is back on, say, transparent proxies were a big thing. And then I discovered, well, why not do it in the browser? And that's where it started. This is back in the original Adblock days. So this is where if Adblock, essentially Adblock 1 and the original OG filter list, filter list G, Perceive. I'm not sure if anyone would remember that.
I remember
that. It was the original. It was basically a filter list with regex only, and I found that was so limiting and developed my own.
Yeah, I started a long time ago as well, a little bit before you. My one claim to fame is that I think I have the oldest filter list on the internet. Can I get a round of applause? Thank you. No, basically what happened was that I was running a local name server, and I had the idea that if I made the name server act as a master for like DoubleClick.net and other zones, then it could effectively black hole an entire zone. And I thought it was very clever, and I thought I'd put it on a web page, And that was in 1997 sometime, and I just kind of kept doing it. So yeah, it's a lazy way of blocking ads, but worked out.
I'm going to be the first.
Yes.
Okay, I am relatively new person compared to the people at here. I usually counteract to anti-adblocks and trackers in Korea. Specifically, I started the ad blocking or ad filtering, writing filters or whatever, but because I got aware of the ads and trackers by learning development and my own from probably 14 years old. Yes, and I am handling eyeo and running DNS server just like per. Is it correct?
Peter.
Peter. Sorry. Running a DNS server for blocking trackers and ad servers efficiently in my mobile. Yeah, that's all.
But what actually motivated you? So for Imre, it was YouTube. For Ryan, it was slow internet. And what was your motivation?
For me, it was the tracker, because as I learned the development, I started to use the dev tools in the Chrome, and after that, I could aware of the trackers in the website, so I just wanted to block them.
Yeah, same here. Honestly, the query log on a DNS server, it shows so many requests to tracking domains and ad servers that was one of the reasons why.
Do you get a high when you find a new tracker?
I do, man. I do. I get so excited. Actually, I'll be honest. A lot of the work is done by people sending things to me these days. I am genuinely quite lazy. So, yeah.
Anyone else?
I think I can go. So first of all, I think I need to provide a little explanation, because in comparison with everyone right here who are actually the filter list authors, I'm a filter developer. And for those who thought that my job is to do filters for Instagram, that's not what I do, unfortunately or fortunately. What I do is actually I'm the lucky open source contributor which actually gets paid for writing filters. And my job is to try to help users which don't have the understanding of the syntax, they don't know how the filters work, but they still want their ads block. And I help them to communicate their intent to our heroes right here, and therefore have an internet without ads, and which is fair for everyone. And generally speaking, my motivation was to get into this industry was money, because I was looking for a job. But on the other hand, I was looking for something where I can straight away see the impact. And this job is just perfectly what I was looking for, because I can write a filter, it gets approved into the list, and straight away I see that I made somebody's day because they're happy they don't see that ad anymore.
David? Oh, round of applause.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Hi everyone, my name is David Tota. I am the maintainer of the Hungarian filter list. My motivation is there are some portals, especially car portals in Hungary, that I like to read, but some of them are incredibly to read with ads. So I created some filter rules. Because my base education is software developer, I had any experience in ad blocking before, so I just created the rules for me to keep my user experience better. After that, I created some pull requests. Then Peter Szabó, the original maintainer of the Hungarian filter list, no longer had time to maintain it. So in 2020, actually, I took over the maintenance of the Hungarian filter list. So this is my story, short story.
And let's get to the second topic. And the second topic is generally about, well, the art and science of curating filter lists. So basically, you people make very important decisions when you do your job. You basically decide how the internet will look like for other regular people like we are. And how do you manage to keep the balance? How do you manage do you have any ethical dilemmas? And how do you cope with the responsibility that's on you all?
Actually, I'm curious about one thing.
Yeah.
So, do we all have different ideas about what should be? I mean, we talk amongst each other, but I don't know if we have like a common understanding of what should be on the list or what shouldn't.
That's a good question.
Yeah, policy. There'll be policy differences on.
Peter's policy is block everything related to Elon Musk.
Ah, yeah. That's the new policy. I mean, criteria and rules. I will. If someone suggests, say, oh, here's a really good rule to block X and Y, I will. There's always a skepticism of whether it's truly a good rule, because you always have to know that are they coming from a good place or a bad place, because sometimes people will have ulterior motives on creating, whether they think it's a good rule or not. And I would look through the Git log to see if it's been previously added. So, for example, here's a domain. Apparently, it's a bad domain. You go, okay, let's scour the web first, okay, and then see if it's been used elsewhere, and then look on our Git repo and just see, is there a history of this domain ever been blocked, and if it was ever removed or ever modified, and then we can go from there. Whether if there has been an issue, we can at least go through the history of this, say, a specific rule to either reevaluate whether it should be re-added or deny the request.
How do you deal with edge cases when it's unclear? Do you deal with them?
We'll just test. I guess we'll just test the rule. I guess we'll test the rule out briefly and just see if it hits anything. Have a look and see which sites first affect it, because it might be more than just the one site. And then if it does actually do what it suggests it does, then it might be a good candidate for inclusion for the main list. But you have to be very careful that why it might work for one domain, it could break for another. And I guess, is it worth being specific for a rule? Like, let's make a site-specific rule to be on the safe side. You don't want to break half the internet because you decided.
Well.
Unless you're Peter. But yeah, I always try to do that. You try to do the best thing sometimes, but people want they want their own idea of what should be in the list or how it should be done. And you basically try and be as cautious as possible without site-specific is a lot easier to deal with than making it generically blocked, because if you go site-specific, you're only going to break the one site. Generic block, break the internet.
Yeah. My list is a bit different to most of the filter lists out there, because it's just a list of domains, and it's not, I don't have to put rules in, basically. I just add a domain or subtract it. So my policy is basically if there's a domain which is primarily being used for ads or trackers, then it goes on the list. And I don't have to worry about a lot of things these guys do, because like breaking things and unbreaking things is their responsibility. I have another question, if I can ask. Who here has had a legal challenge? No one else? It's just me, right?
Okay.
Oh, and someone in the audience. Okay.
Tell us about how police raided your home.
Yeah.
Wow.
What do you felt?
Can I ask which company?
I can't remember. It was a couple of years ago. I was living in Malta at the time, and it was someone in the US threatened to get the lawyers on me, and then I got a cease and desist, and okay, good luck. But it never went beyond that. I think that just people like to threaten, it's for anybody who's interested. It's a threat to say you're causing us loss of business by blocking our domain. We're losing money, that kind of thing. So they want us to take them off the list, because, you know.
There's always
Something
always a problem. The moment you block a domain, they'll want it removed.
Yeah. All right, just me and Ryan. Okay.
Anyone?
I guess I can give a quick answer of mine to increase my speaking percentage time. So obviously the more ad blockers my lists are included in, the more strict the criteria for lists that aren't included in any ad blockers. Pretty much anything goes, to say the least. For major annoyances lists and regional lists, things begin getting a bit more complicated because one has to whitelist like random real estate carousels and whatnot that newspapers dearly insisted on putting on their ad servers and such. I also do not usually block trackers because until around early 2023 or so, my personal impression was that privacy lists caused more problems on sites than they fixed, though the situation seems to have improved somewhat in the past year. That was the answer.
Nice. Quick question to everyone. Probably there's Ryan, for instance. He maintains EasyList, which is kind of a global filter list. But in different parts of the world, there are different ads and different tracking, and maybe even different approaches. So Imre, David, Hojeong, they maintain regional lists.
Right.
And of course you're familiar with EasyList and with the English-speaking internet. What's different in your part of the world from what we deal with in the English-speaking part of the world? Are there any differences, like, I don't know, in Korea or in Hungary? And
I mean, I've managed. Sorry, you can explain.
Oh yeah. Then I want to try it again. So in Norway and Denmark, there is. I only really know of one major difference. The thing is, a lot of regional newspapers for districts and rural towns are under the same 2 or 3 publishers. So this has necessitated various generic or otherwise complicated rules to handle as many as 85 news sites at once. That's, as far as I can tell, the only difference between Norwegian and American ads on websites.
Okay. I have a thing to talk about the difference. In Korea, there is a pretty big internet providers in just like Google and Amazon doing the same role in the Korea. Some of them are called Naver or Daum, but I don't think most of Koreans usually get their own domains to host the contents or to write a blog. But in global world, I think it's pretty common. So in Korea, global rules, what it's called? Global rules or?
Maybe if we are comparing with the EasyList in English-speaking internet.
Yeah, so I mean the rules applied, general rules.
Yeah.
That's it. General rules are pretty useful in Korea compared to the global world. Because they are using one domain and one services to do everything they want to do.
So it's basically Naver is like half of the internet there.
Yeah, it's just there are a bunch of subdomains. Yeah.
Yeah, I have noticed with a lot of Asian countries, they'll wrap their trackers in subdomains. I've been trying to move easy privacy, at least for the generic rules, away from overly generic rules that create probably more issues and be a lot more specific in a lot of ways, because generic rules have their own problems, and I feel that having a more specific rule will have less issues than a generic. Let's /track.php is a generic rule. could work well, but it could potentially break and will break a lot of sites. So how about we, on very specific rules, let's just start make them specific, and at least it won't break the internet. So removing generic rules as far as you can. I wouldn't say completely, but at least minimise as much as you can and make them more specific. So if there's a subdomain, block the subdomain, and that works well for lists that, for example, Pi-hole users who want to use easy privacy. It's easy to convert a Pi-hole user. If they're using easy privacy, they can just convert it that way rather than generic rules.
We're a little bit late on this. Let's get to the next topic. I'm sorry. We'll have time later. So the next topic that we need to discuss is probably the role of the community. So it's important to mention that filter list is basically a collaborative effort, and some of the filter lists are partly crowdsourced. There's almost always some lead developers, lead maintainers, but a lot of things come from the community, from just regular people who come and help. So I would just like to ask you, how do you see the role of the community? Do you need them to do something differently? What's your best practices? Yeah. What do you generally think about crowdsourced filter lists? Is it a good idea? Will it be better in the future? Sure.
Okay, then Elena's priority again. So, by wild chance, I quickly began getting attention from enthusiasts on GitHub, and later got invited into the rather open secret that is the Slack groups for all important decisions in the community.
It's an open secret now, mate.
Certainly not now. Figured it had been said sooner than later. So I happen to have lots of good resources, lots of good assistance, quick access to people who can help me, ways I can help others. I was relatively lucky to have good contacts almost from the beginning in like mid-2017, and even though my community on my GitHub repo has dwindled, I still appreciate that I got like 40, 50, 60 people I can contact on rather short notice for lists and stuff.
I think the community is invaluable. Basically, we couldn't do without it. And I think pretty much all of us were members of the community before we became filter list maintainers, or saw it evolve. You know, I didn't really have that many. We were looking at the earlier way back versions of my page, and it's like I was very excited about finding other people's host lists on the internet back in like 2000, 2001 or whatever. But yeah, we were all part of that community, and we got a little. It's like any open source thing, I think. Any kind of collaborative effort on the internet is. Most of us, well, a lot of us have jobs doing this or related to it, but it's not how we started. So, yeah.
And also, if I may add from the side of the community, and what is missing and one of the challenges which I'm facing, because mostly I do look into user issue reports, what they complain about, what are their pain points, and they try to find the right filter which is going to help them. The missing part for us is the amount of detail, which sometimes they might be too much and give us too private information, sometimes screenshots with bank details or things like that. So what I will say, it's missing the part that our users are not that really educated into how to properly use the list, because sometimes a person might be annoyed with something and they don't even know that there is an annoyance list curated by Fanboy here, and which might solve all their problems, but we simply take our users as granted, and we just assume that they are so good technically advanced that they will figure that out by themselves. And on the overside, it's nice to see because we have on GitHub issues there, and there are some users which they are so engaged, and they post like a lot of issues, and then sometimes separately with the authors, they're like, oh, this user is like posting hundreds of issues, and we ever try to like show him some ways of writing the list so he can start writing lists and PRing rather than open just the issues, or try to see like what is happening there, why this person is constantly having error complaints. But it's super nice to see that people are actually open to help, and their support, as Peter said, is massive, and it's super important for us.
Yeah, I think the community, like, at least I've seen it change from purely just forums, because I started way back obviously in Adblock Plus forums, and then people have migrated to using Git rather than, I guess once we moved to Git, everything changed for the Adblock community, where people can open up issue reports and pull requests. I find pull requests probably a lot easier to deal with, because you could look at one click and go, oh, merge, but at least it's easier to see what they're trying to imply, what they want to do. But we talk with a lot of other developers, so we want to make sure that we don't step on anybody's toes, or if there is an issue, we can discuss internally whether if it's considered a good rule, or there's a lot of collabing between filter list authors, because we're all basically we want to be on the same page. We don't want to step on anybody's toes. Go, should this rule be here, or is it doing something that should apply here? So I would say people should keep submitting stuff. I guess just make sure they do testing first.
Can I say one thing though? Part of the feedback that I get, for me personally, I don't know what it's like for you guys, but because of uBlock Origin mostly, the block page that shows up says this page has been blocked because of, and then it tells you the filter list that the rule is in. So I get a lot of people who don't really understand quite what's happening, complaining that they clicked on a link in their knitting newsletter and can't get to the page. Imre, do you have the same?
I just wanted to quick point out that for some reason, AdGuard similar block page does not currently show which list that contains the entry that triggered a warning. That has caused more than a little bit of confusion among users, even more, in fact, than your case.
It could be a good thing,
Noted.
But I think Peter would be happy if uBlock Origin didn't show the name of his filter.
Do you know what? It's actually not bad. I most of the time.
Do you have calls like in the night?
No, fortunately, my phone number is nowhere on there. But it's quite useful sometimes, because I can get to explain to people like what's going on. It doesn't flood my inbox. And occasionally there are people who have a valid point about why a domain shouldn't be on the list anymore, and I get to review it. So,
We get that so regularly. Like, the moment you add a site, even if a site's been there for like we blocked some sites 5 or 6 years, and then suddenly out of the blue an email is like, you're blocking our site. It's like it's been this list for like how many years, and now you're complaining. It's like there must be a good reason why you're asking now. And
since you mentioned collaboration between different filter list authors, did you think about maybe some kind of a unification of the main lists on the internet?
We talked about this last time, didn't we?
Yeah, we talked.
Yeah, I do. I mean,
no,
it would streamline things obviously a lot more if there were the big merger, I guess, is what you're saying.
But everybody has slightly different.
I guess policies would have to change. Yes, there would have to be some compromises on everyone to have a common policy between us. So
I think there are advantages to having different policies. That's why I was asking earlier, because like I think I'm the only list that adds bounce trackers. annoys people. It's the bounce trackers are the kind of like link trackers. You get them in emails. You click on a link and it bounces you through another server to like track your link click, and then sends you to the target URL. But you guys add that to the uBlock Origin unbreak list like almost immediately whenever I do that. And but I think it's an important thing. I think it's a useful.
Well, we had the same issue. Okay, so when EasyList and Fanboys List were about to merge, I got so many emails going, please don't, please don't. I only use your list. I don't want to use EasyList. And I was like, I understood where they're coming from. There were a few devoted people who just didn't want the merger to happen, I guess. And it became untenable being a one-man band to do the list. And I see the same here, is that I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but I can see benefits. It might streamline things a lot more for a lot of users if, and it means that at least if some rules or policies were agreed upon, things might say, for example, there was a disagreement, for example, you could create a separate list or an extension list to say, okay, we couldn't agree on, say, X and Y, here's another list that will do what you want it to do, on top of what you're wanting, essentially.
Guess we should continue with that after in the evening. We'll discuss it. And finally, the last topic that I would like to touch with you is challenges and innovations, because well, you should also talk about AI a little bit, first of all. But the second thing is that what kinds of challenges, technical challenges are you facing? How can we, as your developers, help you with solving these challenges? And well, what are your problems?
Yes. So I got points to make about the top 3 sub-points on the upper right. So anti-adblock measures. It's not a common problem for me, but when I encounter them on video sites, I just ask the big professionals at other lists for help. I admit. Regarding different ad blockers, this is where it gets interesting and complicated. Like, it varies rather dramatically how much the ad blockers are willing to implement new features, process requests for new features, request help of some sort. We have uBlock Origin, which typically responds to requests within like 10 minutes. They got a team of like 30 people. AdGuard, who responds within 2 hours, unless it's Saturdays or Sundays, at which point almost all of them are asleep. And then Adblock Plus, who apparently made some kind of like feature freeze in anticipation of Manifest v3, and to the point where feature requests for new features on their GitLab takes more than a year to process. There's also some differences in implementations of syntaxes. Some are harder to synchronize with than others, such that I had to make concessions for many syntaxes, and even had to make different list versions of 2 of my lists. So it's been hard to synchronize this, but I think I do it well enough. Regarding AI, let me just say this straight. Trying to train an AI to adblock, that is absolute, complete nonsense. It's bull. It's like an AI cannot just randomly like do what it usually does, generate random text and hope it counts as relevant objects and classes and elements on pages. That's not how it works. AI, as it is written today, as it is popular today, is not going to work for ad blocking, period. Okay.
Humanity. Well, we'll see, Imre. Okay. I wouldn't be that pessimistic about that. Elena, did you want to talk about?
Yeah, couple of the points I can touch as well. To start with the anti-ad blockers, from the perspective where I come from, we have this company policy of not touching them. We respect the publishers. It's fine for them that they want to display that Adblock wall, so we don't do anything against it. But my personal opinion to comes to it, if in my personal life I encounter an ad blocker, I will stop using that service or that domain, simply because I'm thinking that if you want to do money, you can do that in different ways rather than displaying advertising and afterward even punishing me for using a solution to my problem of you displaying advertising. And in generally speaking, in terms of what's evolving and what's trending and what I see as a challenge for now, nowadays ads are massively moved to social media networks and especially embedded in content, which is way more harder to filter. And now companies pay a lot of their advertising resources into influencers, and basically a post on TikTok or on Instagram can be considered and treated as an ad. And nowadays I don't know if there is like any actually good dealing ad blocker in that terms, but on the matter it's like really annoying. And also we have the challenge that if before a lot of people were on desktops and there are different kinds of advertisements on that sector, now everyone is trending on mobile, and therefore there is a change in the way you do advertisements, and there is also we need to think of a change and change our approach, because obviously we don't want to make our websites to load even slower, because we have super long lists which like make the user experience suffer. So it's very important for us to try to find out a way of still being effective and still cope well with all kinds of different issues in the mobile environment. Like one of the examples which we have in our practice was the random ad servers, which they are like really intrusive, very disturbing. And at the beginning when we start looking into it, we used to spend like two developers about 14 hours per week just trying to go day by day manually and finding them, until we decided like, well, 14 hours is too much and we need to find a way to automate it. So in the end we have now a crawler which goes, tries, and actually, although they are called random ad servers, we notice that they kind of have patterns which we can discover them and actually identify them. And now we managed to cut down the time, and we use only about 2 hours per week to fully scatter on and like contribute to the list and be able to find some ad servers which are like really annoying.
And this crawler, is it open source?
At the moment it's just a project supported by our Flops team, so it's open source, but for our company internally. But maybe we are going to forward the comment to our team and see maybe they're ready to
Good idea.
to make it public.
So anti-adblock measures. We have actually limited so much of the generic rules in EasyList, because a lot of the bait rules are used by a lot of sites where they'll insert a certain cosmetic or certain generic block to force EasyList to block it, and then show the big banner saying, "Hey, we detected you're running an ad block." So generic hide for a generic block, we've trimmed so much of it recently to, not just for cleaning, obviously for housekeeping purposes, but also for bait purposes, because a lot of sites will they'll try and bait EasyList to block something. So let's remove the bait, let's remove that aspect of it, and often the sites don't even check it's been updated either. So what will happen is that a rule that we removed 5 or 6 years ago is still being, trying to be baited by us, but because the site's never checked that, the ad block rule's been removed, it will just, it's always there. So I guess sites are not very proactive in checking anti-ad block, so you don't get any ad block with it, do you?
I don't know. I don't have to worry about it. Again, it's the rules that I just stick with domains. It's quite simple for me, and most of the work is done by people emailing me. So yeah, I'm quite excited about AI though. Some of the stuff I heard today is amazing, especially the adding the prompts afterwards.
Prompt engineering.
Yeah, prompt engineering side of things is so cool. It's just so exciting. I think you're wrong, Imre. I'm sorry. I disagree.
Damn it.
Yeah. No, we're all going to be out of a job hopefully soon.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I think actually we won't be. We'll be around for a while.
To be honest, I can imagine like a filter list of prompts. So like prompt filter maintainer.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Imagine
Could
that.
be. It could be absolutely. So I don't really care about different ad blockers myself. I just maintain the list. It's quite nice. I don't care if anybody uses my list or if they don't use. If nobody used my list, I would still do exactly the same thing. So no difference for me. AI is very cool. Anticipating new ad tech. I mean, okay, this is just me, but personally, I've given up making any predictions lately. I've just been wrong about everything. So yeah. So pass. I don't know. What do you think? How do you deal with anti-Adblock stuff in the Korean list?
It's pretty interesting in Korea about anti-blocks because they tend to break the sites, actually. They don't afraid of breaking the websites completely, like just showing the white screen instead of the content. They even commit to use the shadow DOMs or pretty complex. Like it's,
Yeah.
you know, the JavaScript
Obfuscate.
obfuscator.
Yeah, where they'll basically get their JavaScript and just mangle it to pieces,
Yeah.
so you can't read it properly. I guess, yeah.
I usually take like 3 days almost to completely obfuscate the script, but
That's a complicated task.
it's very.
ChatGPT is not bad at that.
I'm going to handle about this subject later in my talk. It's on tomorrow. But I basically think what we need to counteract on the anti-adblock at this time is to having a proper scriptless and the proper support for the scriptless, even on iOS. Yes, we can, because of many web technologies have evolved and they are using Webpack on similar APIs like array.prototype.call is one of the things. So I believe that I can counteract with proper scriptlet support for now. Yeah.
Please, let us know which scriptlets you need, and we'll do that. No problem. And we're kinda out of time. And if you have any questions to our today's heroes, please feel free to. Where's this Imre?
Oh no, Hugh.
Hi, thank you for the interesting panel. So I was wondering, I'm interested more in terms of the collaboration process between filter list maintainers, especially for disagreements. For example, if Fanboy creates a rule that many of you guys disagree with, what would happen? Or does Fanboy have complete control?
I mean, he does.
No, okay, so it does occasionally does happen, and
I can comment it from our side.
it does happen. It does happen. Okay, so what happens? Say, for example, there are certain sites where they'll have in-video advertising, where basically they'll show an unrelated video embedded into a web page, and that I feel that's fair game as a video ad, but some maintainers might think that's breaking a site, and often they will overrule easy lists by bad filtering, I guess, what we put through, and without further discussion, you can't, there is, we do have disagreements. I mean, we're only human. We just accept that there are some rules that we can't agree upon, and we'll put a line in the sand and say, okay, we agree to disagree, and they can, if they want to bad filter this thing, which apparently is not a good rule, I'll just do it, and we'll just keep going where we are. At some stage, I do try and revisit it and see if it's still an issue. Like I will revisit bad rules and see if there's still any reason we can remove the bad rules and try and collab a bit more. But if not, there's no bad blood or anything like that. Is what I'm saying. We agree to disagree on a lot of things.
Yeah, I think in the end. Go ahead.
To the extent I understood the question, the answer is way simpler than Ryan just said. So in a GitHub or GitLab repo, there is usually one owner / one super leader thing who gets to make all the rules about criteria, who gets to make the final call on community contributions about rules. That one guy, yes, there is quite overwhelming male supermajority in the filterless community, mostly unfortunately for those who think about such. And that one leader, he gets to decide it all, so there's not a whole lot of conflicts outside of the 2 or 3 very biggest list projects.
Elena?
Yeah, I was just about to add the same thing, that mainly depends on the filter list author, but the main key in this to answer, I would say, is the way we communicate and what we got. Like sometimes we have like some internal highlighted filters and we are like, yeah, this is kind of a problem, and the answer which we get from legal is up to the filter list author. He can decide, best you can do, persuade him to change it. You bring your arguments. Sometimes we have issues or PRs in which there is like hundreds and tons of comments when the contributor is arguing and trying to prove his point. But in the end, I actually really like this due diligence process which we have, and it's really nice when sometimes, for example, I might propose a filter and there is somebody else who is like, oh, but this one is gonna work better, or we can collaborate. And also it's normal for conflicts to be there, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to come up in the end with the best solution possible. So far that's how we deal with them.
I think it's also about the explanation on why you do what you do, I guess.
Yeah.
If you block something and don't give any explanation why, or it doesn't give people, people want feedback, I guess. Every time someone makes a suggestion, people want feedback on why or why not. And if you don't give adequate feedback, then you got to basically readdress the same issue from a different person, asking why aren't you blocking this, or why should you allow this script to run, or whatever. So it's all about feedback to the community as well.
We're probably running a little late, right?
I just want to say one little thing. I actually really
Do we have time for another question?
Right.
There's also an online question.
One question, one person answers.
It's you and then between food, so that's
At least
keep in
everyone's
mind.
Okay, so let's.
One question. No, but one person answers, not all of you.
Good.
Right, maybe will not be much of a question. So once again, thank you all. You are truly our heroes. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And then. And then a comment, because you discuss many of differences and compatibility issues. And at Ghostery, we basically merge most of your block list together. And this works. It really does. Well, sometimes there is breakage. Thank you, Peter. But then it's on us. And it basically continue doing what you do. We'll figure it out. Thanks.
Thank you. Guys, we probably need to wrap up.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
Thank you for moderating.
your time.